Hello, my name is Ilona and today it's Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. So it's the shortest day today. The light is coming back tomorrow, so to speak. It's a very symbolic time. And I want to talk about free will and looking away. So this is a bit of an ambitious project, especially in a small, or how to say, short video. So I will mention a few things. Of course, there will be a lot of things I'm not mentioning, obviously, because it's a gigantic subject, free will. But I really want to talk about the free will, looking away. I think the biggest issue, and that's of course how I'm seeing things now. Maybe in a couple of months or years from now, I will look differently at this. This is an ongoing process for me as well, but I do feel that the combination of free will and looking away is why we got in this mess to begin with. And I'm not going to start about what exactly happened. You know, we were placed here with all kinds of DNA and with the sparkle of God. We are all connected to God, to Source, and that we were here to create, to experience. And this is a free will zone. And that's very important for me to understand because everything is possible here. And I think when the experiment started, that no one really had an idea what was going to happen. That's, of course, part of the experiment. If you know everything beforehand, what's the point of doing an experiment? So we were capable of experiencing the lightest, most beautiful thing and experiencing the most dark thing we could, experience or kind of create. It's based on our decisions that we make, and free will is really, we can decide whatever we want to. And of course, when you look around now, what's happened, I think it got completely out of hand, and it has to do with looking away. Now this sounds maybe very simplistic, and in a way it is very simplistic, but I believe that we started to look away from ourselves. We started to look outside of ourselves. We never connected with that what's going on inside ourselves is what's happening outside of ourselves. So we start blaming things outside of ourselves, and of course the dark energies who are really completely disconnected from God, from from their emotions, from their intuitions. They made decisions that kept them completely trapped in this negative mindset. That's choices they've made. And of course, I've already talked about the interview with the hidden hand. They do have some kind of understanding if that is correct or not, or I let everyone else decide, for themselves what resonates. But they have this idea behind this, and this has connected to reincarnation, and I do believe there's been a reincarnation trap. I do believe it's part of our soul structure to reincarnate, but with our memories. I think that's very important, and especially in the interview with the hidden hand, it was actually came for the forefront that a lot of the dark energies, the higher ups, do remember what's been happening. They do have a spiritual insight and how to work with spiritual law, with spiritual energy. That doesn't mean that they are enlightened. It means that they use, just because someone understands spiritual laws and spiritual energy and how things work, doesn't mean that this is someone good or is using it for good. You can use it any way you want. That is the free will. So I do believe they use it for their agenda, obviously. And I think along the way, they've taken over the reincarnation trap, so to speak. That's why I'm calling it a trap. I do believe it was originally intended for us to experience all these lives, but to keep all these memories so we can bring them together, so we can learn from them. Because I always thought it was very curious when I started reading about reincarnation, and I started at a very young age. I've always been very interested in this, never understood. We're just here for one life. It was never made any sense to me. So, especially when you look at the lives some people live, it's very strange. Why is someone born in a war zone and the other person is born in this wealth and loving family? It never made any sense to me because it never felt fair. And somewhere I felt life is fair. It made more sense to me with reincarnation. And I believe that the dark energies have taken over. If I'm not mistaken, they're not taking over anymore. I believe the whiteheads have taken over that part again. So we can actually leave now. But they kept us in this energy, so we would actually return back in here, but without our memory. And it never made any sense to me. It's like going to, I think, middle school as a child, and then you start with the ABC, and at the end of middle school, when you go into high school, you're still working with ABC, because every year you have to repeat it again because you lost the memory. You're not growing then, and you don't fully understand why you're here. And I think especially when you come back, you also carry, of course, the baggage or karma, just how you think of things, with you from other lives as well when you're here. And sometimes you meet people, you're like, why? I don't like this person. Or you suddenly, meet someone, you're like, you have an immediate connection, but you don't understand it. So it's very possible that you'll be reliving mistakes, things, relationships over and over again in all these lifetimes without really making progress. Because you don't really understand what is going on. Why are you experiencing this? That has to, you have to have some kind of awareness and understanding. And so that's a very interesting thing. And I'm like, the dark energies purposely kept us in this very unconscious state, wiping our memory every time. So we wouldn't have a clue what we were doing. And every lifetime we would start over and over again. And the problem with that is that a lot of people really didn't understand anything and got stuck more and more and more. And I think a lot of negative people got so, involved in what's going on, that they've lost connection with their feelings, with their emotions. They didn't want to deal with the pain. That's looking away, not dealing with what's going on inside of ourselves, so not going to deal with how we feel. And it's also pushed by the dark energies for a very long time. So a lot of people, lifetime after lifetime, pushed away their emotions, pushed away their feelings, their intuition, and in a way became sort of a robot. Especially when you look around now with a lot of unconscious people, they don't want to hear anything. They want to remain in what they see as life, and they don't want to be challenged because they're so fearful. They're in this state of getting their security outside of themselves, from the government, from institutions, from things around them, that if you take that away or you start challenging that, they will completely collapse. They don't want that. And I think that is the issue we are seeing right now. I think it started with not looking inside of ourselves, not understanding the connection between what's going on outside of ourselves, that it is a connection inside of ourselves. I even noticed that with people, I talk to that are in a very bad positions, money-wise, things are happening, but they don't fully understand it's a reflection of themselves. We are all very powerful spiritual beings. We can pretty much create what we want. But by thinking that we cannot create what we want, that we're stuck in a certain job, or that that's the only thing we can have, and we are creating that. We are creating that scarcity, that poverty mindset, the victimhood, so to speak. And it's very difficult for them to see that there is an immediate connection there, that it has to do with something inside of themselves. I see that, of course, with the people that are not aware at all. You even see it in the spiritual community. I was talking about this in my last video, that there are people in the spiritual community. They are obviously very spiritual, but they only want to look at the light side. They only want to focus on the positive things. They do not want to look at the dark side. Then you're feeding the dark side. But there is no balance there. It's a perfect way not to deal with anger. A lot of spiritual beliefs are, you shouldn't express anger. You should just forgive everyone, and there should just be love. If you don't deal with anger, frustration, fear, sadness, then you carry that with you. If you just start forgiving people when you're still very angry deep down inside, or very sad, or very scared, you're stepping over that, and you will still create those, these situations connecting to those feelings, emotions. I already mentioned that in my last video with the refrigerator. You'll still be creating that. So there's, of course, in the spiritual world, but even in the awake world, you know, the wake of the truth, the community, there are a lot of people focused outside of themselves. Yeah, we need to deal with Klaus, we need to deal with the World Economic Forum, the bloodlines, we need to deal with this, and then everything will be all right, because they're the ones creating everything, and they don't understand the connection inside themselves. They're completely focused outside of themselves. And especially when you mention that, usually they look at you like, oh, yeah, that's not reality. That's not, you know, based in this. And they're pretty much stuck and not looking inside of themselves. And they're looking away. Not understanding, if we clean our energies, if we work with our shadow side, if we work through that, we will see this beautiful world around us. It's a direct reflection. And even if there are a lot of unconscious people around us, if we are fully standing in our strength, fully trust that our energy, our frequency decides in what timeline we end up, it doesn't really matter that there are all these people that do not align with that. You know, you don't have to fear that. You're not going to be dragged into a timeline or into a situation if it doesn't connect with you. And a lot of people don't seem to fully understand that. They're still afraid, you know, all these people still going to get those stings and still going to maybe even be, you know, locked somewhere, and they're going to make sure that that's going to happen because they're not standing up. You are giving away your power again. If you're fully inside of yourself, you know you're connected to God. You know you're protected. You end up in a timeline. You don't have to fear about that. You don't have to be afraid that something's going to happen that doesn't fit with your energy. And we really need to understand that. So I do believe that with free will is what happened. We all started to making all kinds of decisions. And of course, when you make decisions, you will get the consequences. You cannot outrun the consequences. That's not possible. You're going to meet with it this lifetime or another lifetime, but you will have to deal with it. Every one of us has to deal with that. And it's very important because we started moving away. We didn't want to deal with the pain inside of ourselves. We stopped dealing with the energy inside of ourselves. We kind of disconnected ourselves by focusing on the outside world instead of our inside world. And of course, that's been promoted by the dark energies as well. That's how they live their life, essentially. They're, of course, need energy outside of themselves, so everything is outside of themselves for them. So in a way, they don't fully understand us humans who are still connected and who are following intuition, following God, our guidance in that way, because we'll be navigating in a completely different way than what they're expecting. So I just wanted to talk about this. Obviously, these are just very, in a way, superficial way of looking at things, but I thought it was interesting to me and I wanted to mention this. So see how you feel about this, and let me know in the reactions below in the video, you know, below the video. I'm really curious how you view things, but I do believe that the combination of free will and people starting to move away from connection with themselves, that is pretty much the biggest issue I think still going on. People are not connecting, no matter in what group they are, if they are aware, if they are in the truth community, or not aware at all. I think the biggest issue is looking away, not inside of ourselves, not dealing with what's going on inside of ourselves. And a lot of people that cannot even connect with themselves anymore. I do think that that's been happening for a very long time as well. If you step away, if you focus outside of yourself, how many generations have pushed away their feelings, their emotions, not dealing with that? Ultimately, if you keep keep living life after life like that, you kind of turn into a robotic person to begin with. There are people, among us that have really no connection with their feelings and emotions at all, and really have no clue. They have no empathy. They don't even understand how someone else works, and it's very interesting. And it all has to do with choices, making choices, looking away. I'd like to leave it at this and hope to see you in another video. Bye.